Ladies and gentlemen, this is Captain Robertson here, bringing you an update video for December 2024, along with a small showcase for two add-ons I've recently created for the game Stormworks Build and Rescue. As many of you have already noticed, and of which I am painfully aware, there has been a distinct shortage of videos on my channel over the last few years. Sadly, as I mentioned last Christmas, I have been unusually busy both with offline work-related projects and with other types of online content creation, particularly with modding and the maintenance of mods that I've worked on in the past, including some of my Space Engineers creations, Kenshi add-ons, and, as I've just hinted at, two relatively substantial add-ons for Stormworks, both of which I will go into in more detail in just a few minutes. Now, I had hoped that things would have calmed down a little more this year in order to give me a little extra free time in which to finish my Space Engineers series on YouTube, but unfortunately, as fate would have it, the exact opposite has been the case, and as a result, things have slowed right down to the extent that I've been working on the latest episode for at least 6 months, off and on. But the good news is that most of it is more or less done, so if all goes well, it should be out fairly soon. Now, regarding the two add-ons that I've been working on for Stormworks Build and Rescue, and which are currently playing in the background here, these are two that I started, with the first one back in August 2024, which is the Bungeling Raiders add-on featuring hostile AI encounters, and the other is the improved civilian traffic add-on. For those of you that have been watching my videos will already know by now, I am always talking about the missed opportunity with regards to a lack of low-intensity combat-orientated missions in Stormworks, such as Coast Guard or Naval Coastal Patrol missions. So, rather than sit and wait for something that may never come, I decided to bite the bullet and make a start on a very basic and rudimentary version of something along those lines myself. The very first iteration of this was just one or two ship types that spawned on the map and randomly followed waypoints and pretty much shot at anything they came across, yet it awarded the player with a bounty whenever one of them was destroyed. Whilst it did work, it was very buggy and it only featured surface vessels, and due to my lack of coding ability, it wasn't quite up to the standard that I really wanted from it. So I did what any sensible person would have done, and I asked for help, both on Steam, Discord and Reddit. And while there were a few individuals that expressed an initial interest in helping out, such as Furry Stonetoss and Shadowkin, sadly, for whatever reason, neither of them were able to follow through. But thankfully, I was contacted shortly afterwards and joined in this daunting venture by my now esteemed colleague Professor Sins, also known as Highway or Rice on Discord, who is probably one of the most skilled coders I have come across, despite still claiming to only be a university student. And with his invaluable help, the add-on not only received an overwhelming amount of bug fixes and polish, but it also grew in scope to include many incredible features, such as enemies that respawn their losses, over 10 different enemy vehicles including helicopters and submarines, the ability to choose which types of enemies you want to fight against, and the ability to show their approximate position on the map that fades in and out every few minutes, or to only see the distress calls of the civilian shipping under attack instead. And, best of all, it's 100% career mode friendly. Well folks, that was just the beginning, as after a few months working on the Bungeling Raiders add-on, we also became aware of several, sometimes game-breaking bugs with Geometa's default AI add-on that simulates civilian traffic in the world, such as the fact that they never respawned their losses and threw out an error message whenever one of the vehicles is destroyed by a missile, whirlpool or meteor storm, which sometimes caused the add-on to stop working entirely. Which, as you could imagine, is quite worrying considering it is a base game official add-on. But fear not, as we soon replaced it with our own version, which we dubbed the Improved Civilian Traffic add-on, that not only fixes those bugs, but allows the AI vehicles to respawn their losses over time. It merges both the aircraft and surface vessel add-ons into one consolidated file, and it even adds a few more contemporary vehicles from the Steam Workshop, making it a vast improvement over the original that comes with the game itself. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Right now, on the Steam Workshop, both the improved civilian traffic and the Bungeling Raiders add-on have over 30,000 subscribers in total, which is around 15,000 each. This is not only more than we could have ever hoped for, given that we're both essentially a pair of hobbyists doing this for free, but it also shows just what a missed opportunity it really was for GeoMeta. And both I and my colleague Professor Sins are completely dumbfounded as to why the devs didn't realise that this is something that the player base would have loved to have seen. I mean, even if they are a small independent development studio, they still have experience in the industry. So this really is just plain common sense, and is something of a winning formula that can be seen in many similar games out there. Especially if you consider how many extra sales they could have gotten if something like this was part of the original Weapons DLC and featured on the Steam homepage, as well as the incredibly bare bones and buggy Conquest game mode that comes with it. I mean, I've already had people say that they've purchased the Weapons DLC solely to play the Bungeling Raiders add-on, which to me is high praise indeed. But at the end of the day, both Professor Sins and I released these add-ons to the community for free, and not to line GeoMeta's pockets, as that is something they should be more than capable of doing for themselves. Or at least we'd like to think so. Anyway, I'll leave a link to both of those add-ons in the description below, as well as a link to the game Stormworks Build and Rescue. So if anyone who hasn't had a chance to try this out for themselves would like to give it a go, especially during the Steam Winter Sale while it's on discount, then please feel free to do so. Likewise, for those of you who have been following my channel will likely already know, I've also posted a link to a zip file containing some extra vehicles for Stormworks, including those from last Christmas, as well as 2 more variants of the Perseus Fast Attack Craft, just as my own way of saying a special thanks to all of my viewers, followers and subscribers out there. In other news, as many of you have already seen, Keen Software House have announced that the Space Engineers 2 Alpha will launch on January the 27th, 2025. In the initial version, much like its predecessor, you'll have access to a basic version of the creative mode, which they've called Vertical Slice 1 or just VS1 for short. Some of the features they've showcased include the new 25cm grid system, which you can attach directly to the large grids without the need for rotors or pistons. They've added the ability to undo and redo any changes that you've made whilst building. There's new physics and voxel destruction effects, improved lighting and visualizations, vastly increased grid speeds of around 300 meters per second, and all of this comes with the new V-Rage 3 engine that they've been working on for the past several years, and it certainly looks very impressive indeed, especially the water physics. Like with the original Space Engineers, which I bought shortly before they added the planets, I'll probably hold off on this one until it's a little more feature complete. Whether or not I'll be making a YouTube series on it is a little too early to say at this point. Sea Power Combat in the Missile Age released last month and has received a steady stream of updates and fixes, but at the time of this recording it still doesn't feature a dynamic campaign, so I'll probably wait until it's updated with that first, and I've got a little more free time before I finally take the plunge. With regards to a few other indie titles that are worth checking out, I've got 2 more space-themed sci-fi games that are worth having a look at. There's Space Rain by Propulsive Games, which is very similar to House of the Dying Sun, combined with a splash of Homeworld. It's still in early access, and there's a long way to go with regards to mission variety, but the devs have been updating it at a rate of knots, and have recently added mid-sized capital ships to the game, so it's definitely worth keeping track of to see how it progresses, as so far it looks like it's going to be very promising indeed. Another one worth taking a look at is Out of Orbit by Brian De Jong. This hidden little gem is one of those top-down pixel art style games where you can build and design your own spacecraft, raid and steal other ships, mine asteroids, and even venture down onto the surface of planets. From what I've seen so far, it's all being done by one guy and looks like it could be a blast. Right now it's part of the winter sale on Steam and costs less than the sodding drink I ordered during our staff Christmas night out last week, so if it looks like something that could be of interest, then feel free to check it out. Well everyone, that about wraps things up for this video. I'll save the Q&A for next time, as there's only been 1 or 2 questions this time around that are worth adding to a channel update video, and as you know I prefer to have at least 5 or 6 of them before I do. As always, I would like to end by wishing you all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next video. Until then, this is Robertson, signing off.